Hey and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Please stick around to the end of this video. If you're watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. We're back for another episode of Snowfall, Season 6, Episode 8, Ballad of the Bear. Now, two things about this particular episode. One is it's directed by Ami and Joseph, so come on. Clap it up for Unc, gone but never forgotten. And also, for those of you that don't know, oso is bear in Spanish. So the episode Ballad of the Bear already is telling you that this is going to be a heavy oso episode, or Gustavo, because I know me personally in my notes and also in the recaps, I tend to interchange Gustavo and oso. So just a little tidbit. But getting into the episode, and speaking of Gustavo, we are opening the episode with him as he's showing up for Unc's repast. So we see a variety of things as he's making sure he got his strap. He's walking from the car, front yard into the house. It's stuff, conversations going on all around him. We get outside to the backyard, and the one thing that strikes me is we see Scully and Leon sitting down having a conversation, and Leon is bawling and Scully is telling him to let that shit go. I was like, and I mean, don't get me wrong, because I'm guessing this was good for Leon, although even though Scully's came to this enlightenment, I still am always like, because sometimes it takes that one thing. But like I said, this is good for Leon, but we still haven't forgot about Dion. When Franklin finally makes his way over to Gustavo, he tells him he has his passports and the other half of his money. I said, damn, that was quick. Gustavo tells him that he's picking up the shipment tomorrow and planting it at the warehouse, but Teddy is still hiding. So they're going to need to drag him out. And, they're basically trying to figure out what is the game plan. One last favor, Gustavo asks, you still have your plane? Now, we never really addressed that in this episode. I'm gonna just get straight into it, and I'm not sure why Oso asked, but if you know, feel free to get down in the comments and let me know. So now, when Louie saw Gustavo, she kind of ran in the house. I won't say she ran. She walked into the house and she goes into the bathroom, and she's having like a minute. It's like a little bit of a breakdown, and then she gives herself a look in the mirror, and I was kind of like, uh-oh, because it was kind of like when you remember who you are. She makes her way back outside and she sits down with Franklin. She's like, you wanted to talk? Let's talk then, right now. And that breaks up the little daydream that Franklin was having, because Franklin sits there and he's reminiscing about when he went to visit Mel back in the day. And I was wondering what that meant. And I said, Snowfall, please don't have episode 10 be like Mel pop out and really take Franklin out this time. Like, if y'all do that with the way the season is going so good, child. Anywho, so Franklin tells Louie he has 24 hours, and if she's in, she needs to let him know, but that he can't do this without her. And I said, well, isn't this a turn of events? So Louie says, so we're clear, I ain't doing this for you. We knew that, and what I thought she was gonna say ain't what she said. She says she's doing it to be clear of Teddy, and I thought she was doing it for Unc, but I mean, silly me, I don't know why I would have thought that, because Louie, Franklin, throw Teddy in there too. Just three twisted individuals. Franklin says he hears her, and then Louie goes on and walks away. And I said it's really sad that it took losing Unc to get to this point where they're on board with each other. Let's get through the rest of the episode. Franklin hands Oso the bag, has the passports and the money in it, and he says that he'll give him the details at Louie's that night. And Oso's like, all right, cool, but he has to check in first. So then he asks Franklin, you haven't told her? And he's like, he doesn't want to because she'll run, and he can't run that risk, but he'll get her out. And I'm assuming that at this point we're talking about Louie. So now let's skip ahead a little bit in the episode. Gustavo goes to meet with the DEA, and Tony, who is the head guy that Gustavo's been dealing with. See, I told you Gustavo. Oh, so I kind of go back and forth in the notes. But anyway, Tony tells him that Amanda is going to be with him when he meets the Colombians. Gustavo thinks it's a bad idea, but Tony, he's confident. What he's worried about is also because he says at this point, informants are asking a lot of questions and Oso is not. So he doesn't trust him. So Amanda it is. And what else can Gustavo do? Teddy meets with Havemeyer. He's asking him, so to be clear, there's a commitment on the table. And Havemeyer says, a promise. Commitment comes after he transfers the assets. Make a wire transfer, you'll have your blue badge. And I have in my notes, and I kind of mentioned it a little earlier when I said, Louis and Franklin, two sides of the same coin, and throw Teddy in there. And I said that it sounds so crazy because Teddy is a lot like Louis. Louis was ready to lay it all on the line on the strength of self-worth. And Teddy is willing to lay it all on the line on the strength of his country. Louis, she talks to Teddy on the phone and she tells him that Franklin told her at the repass that he ran out of money and asked for a loan. Louis says tomorrow afternoon when Franklin comes for the cash, she'll have her people grab him up. And Teddy, at first, he's kind of quiet. He sounds kind of reluctant. And Louis is like, listen, is it a yes or is it a no? Because she don't have no time for the ish. Teddy finally agrees and they set a meet location for 6 o'clock to do the exchange. And he tells her to come alone. And Louis is like, I'm going to need some help. So Teddy said, you could bring one person. Anything more than that, then it's going to look like a double cross. When she hangs up the phone, though, the camera pans out, and to my surprise, we see Franklin and we also see Gustavo. And I was surprised at this point, but I still didn't know where Louis was at with the whole thing. So Franklin is telling Gustavo that if Teddy shows up and you're not there, I'm a dead man. And Gustavo's like, and so am I. The next day, we see Gustavo and he's at home and he's sitting around and Gustavo looks lost. He's staring into space, and then finally he pulls himself together and he goes over and he's playing with the boys, and then he gives each of the boys one of his masks from his wrestling days. After the boys go into the room, it's time for him and Xiomara to have a conversation, and he's double checking that she has the passport and has everything that she needs. As they're saying their goodbyes, he gives her a number to an answering service, and he says that he's going to check it every week if she needs anything and blah blah, if she doesn't. And these two are having a hard time saying goodbye. And then she says to him, if you see something and it doesn't look right and it feels off, you go the other way. And I said, I know that's right. Way to stand up for your man and be smart. At this point, I am saying, please let this man make it. I really want Gustavo to make it out, but I don't know because like I said, when they give characters almost a whole episode and background stories or center in on them in any way, that usually means they're not long for the world. And like I said, the title of this episode. To my point, as he gets in the truck and he drives off, we see Ruben sitting there watching him. And I'm sure at this point that Ruben is going to follow him. Oso calls Franklin and he tells him he's headed for the border. He'll send him a code to let him know when he gets there. Franklin is telling him, because he's cool as a cucumber himself, stay calm and everything's going to be all right. And I had in my notes, I'd be stressed out too, especially knowing you got the DEA on your ass. He don't know, but Ruben's following him, which he should have known that he wasn't going to let it go just that easily. When Franklin hangs up, V asked him how he sounded. He was less nervous when we were caged up with that tiger. I said, damn, I mean, not that there wasn't a lot on the line then, but there is definitely a lot on the line now. And at this moment, I am starting to get a little worried. This episode had me stressed, y'all. The whole episode, I was like, and I started the episode late. I went onto Twitter and then I was like, let me come off on Twitter because social media will just spoil everything. And people were talking about how nervous they were. And then when I started watching the episode, as I was watching it, I was like, I don't know, I'm going to go sleep after this because my pressure is going to be up. But anyway, he's telling V if it doesn't work out, then that she needs to leave the country and his mom too. She'll help you liquidate the properties and she'll help you and the baby. He tells her that this isn't doubt and he makes her promises to do it, and reluctantly she does. And she seemed like she was a little worried, and I get it because, she didn't want to lose him, although I still got my good eye on Sister V. We're going to be all the way till the finale before I finally let up on her when I see what it is. But I'm guessing since her mom was talking about plan Bs, that this is Franklin's, This is Franklin's plan B, and I appreciate that he did have one. I mean, it's messed up that he put his family in this situation to begin with. I know, don't come from me, but at least at this point, he's trying to make sure that they're okay at least. Child, I had in my notes, everybody is making plans. So Teddy, he's telling Parissa that after last night that he can't transfer the money, therefore the CIA is in his future or their future. You told me there are other ways to attain power, so we'll have to figure out what that is together. She says she needs some type of assurance, and he's asking her, well, do you have a plan? And she's like, matter of fact. So she goes and she comes back and she puts something on the table. And at first I didn't know what it was because I was watching it on my phone. And he's like, where did you get this from? And she's like, he's like, you went through my things. And I didn't think it was going to go so well. But it turns out his mom gave it to him, and it was, I guess, her ring. I just want a partner, he says. And he gets out on one knee and asks her to marry him. And she's like, really? I mean, bitch, you just went to get the ring. What do you... Child, anyway. And I said I could get 0 fucks. Like Snowfall, y'all can kiss my ass. I can give 0 Fs about these two, their story, getting engaged. Because I tell you, if Teddy gets one up on Franklin, I'm going to be one pissed mother trucker. That's what I wrote in my episodes and my notes. And I meant that shit. We see Gustavo, and he's with the DEA lady. I think her name is Amanda, and he is losing his shit because they are 2 hours late. And she's talking about drug dealers not being on time. And she's like, you got a hot date? They're, having a little bit of conversation, but before they can even get through anything, a plane finally comes in, and, he's like, let's get to it. He's offloading what he got to offload and, getting what he got to get. And the guy is standing there like looking at Amanda, giving her the side eye while flirting at the same time. She being slick at the mouth. You didn't tell me you were bringing somebody new. He was really like, Harpo, who is this lady? And then he's like, she's the DIA. She came to arrest us all. And she's back there like, I don't know if she said it in her face, but I know that's what she was thinking. And I was like, and he was like, basically, chill out. Like, she's my cousin. And I guess dude believes him. They get what they got to get and get the business handled and get out of there by the hair of their chinny chin. Child, because ma'am looked nervous. So when she gets to Tony, she tells him that he was reckless and that he wasn't sticking to the story, that he flat out told them that, she was a DEA agent, but, he made a joke of it. She's like, you're right, something's off. So he's like, all right, we'll make a call and check on his family on the way back. And I was like, Franklin, he meets with Louie, and Scully is there as her +1, and he's also got V with him. And he asks Scully if, you want to do the honors. He's like, nah, this ain't got nothing to do with me. He's like, make it look good. So Louie punches the shit out of Franklin. Scully's face was like, ooh, like, damn. But Franklin, he leans into it. He's like, hit me. And she's slugging him, and every time, hit me. That all you got? I said, ma'am is swinging them punches like she is Layla doggone Ali. Poor V, she couldn't take it. She goes to get her ass back in the car. That would have been me. I can't deal with all that violence. And so finally it's to the point where she like knocks him down, and then she's on top of him making haymakers, just totally losing her shit. And Scully had to come pull her off of Franklin. And I said, I know we ain't been Team Louie as of lately, but sis, she really needed that. She needed to get that off her chest. We see Tony and Gustavo, and they're in this doggone truck, I guess, going to make the drop. And Tony, he's making small talk about mentoring and women making good agents because men underestimate them. And then, they got kind of that sixth sense to see through all the bullshit. He talks about Lorena, who is the second woman that he mentored. And I forgot what season that she was on. And I remember thinking in that season, because like I said, you guys have a great memory. Mine's is kind of shifty. And at some point, I remember getting her and Teddy's wife confused. And Tony is basically saying he believes that it was Teddy that took her out. That's what he suspected, especially when they found drugs and cash in the speaker. But meanwhile, I think it was actually Gustavo, also whatever we want to call him, that ended up taking Lorena out. But Tony doesn't know that. Tony says he killed her and disappeared her. She gave her life, doing good, and he made her look like a turncoat. And speaking of Teddy, he pages Oso. My notes are so funny. I have all type of little notes on here. I'm like, I'm wondering how this is all gonna go. So Gustavo gets out and he goes to the payphone, and Tony is right on his heels, baby. We see Franklin saying he's waiting for Oso's page when he finally gets the page with that code. Louie, she hops on the phone and she tells Teddy, got him. He's a little banged up. And Teddy's like, as long as he's alive, but it's going to be a little change of plans. So you drop him off, and when you're gone, I'll pick him up. I'll be watching, he says. She hangs up the phone, goes back to the car, and Louie tells him, listen, he changed the plans. It ain't a face-to-face, it's just dropping you. Franklin says it's worth the risk. As long as Oso shows up, he'll be straight. And at this point, I had in my notes, I must say, I'm surprised that Louie appears to be helping him, because I was unsure. I was still unsure up until the end of the episode as to whether she was going to double cross him or not. But I was like, okay, Louie. Also, he's still at the payphone looking stressed out. Tony is breathing on his neck. And he's telling him he's not calling him back, so I'm going to page his other number. So just as Teddy's calling him back, another car pulls up, and it's Amanda with somebody else in it. And Tony tells him, put your hands behind your back. Who were you talking to? He was like, I was talking to Teddy. Which he was. You could check my pager. And that's when Tony tells him, I had another agent check on Ziamara and the kids. The kids never showed up to school. The neighbors haven't seen her since this morning. I don't know. Was it this morning? I think it was this morning. They said she never made it back home. And Gustavo was like, we had a fight. Like, I don't know where she went. But Tony says, oh, and we checked on Ziamara's mother too. Neighbors saw her getting into the car with a suitcase. And I think they said Ziamara was there fussing too. Child, Tony has had it. At this point in my notes, I'm like, what the fuck? You trying to pull something? I'll plant the drugs myself. This is done. Deal's off the table. And they're going to bury you under the jail. It is not looking good for Mr. Oso. So Teddy, he's getting his straps together, and he kind of looks at the pager on the table like he's hesitant before he heads on his way. We see Louie and Scully. They pull up to the location. I was like, ooh, child. They take Franklin out the trunk. You know, Louie's got the strap on him. You know, she making it look good. He's got his mouth taped up in his hands. And Scully pulls out the tape, tapes up those ankles. Goodbye, Franklin, Louie says. And then they drive off. Franklin, he's kind of like looking around. Next thing we know, it's dark. And then Franklin, he kind of starts to like moaning a little bit. He's looking, and then finally we see the headlights pull up. And Franklin's like, it's motherfucking Teddy. Ooh, child, my foot is falling asleep, y'all. So it's looking bad, y'all. Teddy, he pulls the tape off of Franklin's mouth. He's like, what you say about my son? That you were gonna bleed him like you did my father? Franklin's like, you should let me talk first. There's nothing to talk about. What about the KGB? But Teddy, he says he already knows. But Franklin, he's like, but wait. Like, he's trying to tell him there's more to it, and he's sounding scared, and Teddy don't give a... Okay, we hear like a train pass by, and then Teddy kind of kicks him, and it is lights out for Franklin. Child, I'm hoping I can edit this down because it's looking like a lot and it don't need to be this long. So, anywho, V, she's sitting at the table like having her tea and, you know, just waiting. And when she gets up, it looks like her water broke, and my blood pressure was like if it wasn't up before, it was up then. Because they flash us right back over to Oso, and he's in this car handcuffed in the back seat. And I think they were following the truck that Amanda was taking to the location with the product in it when another car comes up and knocks them off the road. So Amanda, she kind of like looks, and I said, girl, don't get out that truck. But she gets out the truck. Soon as she gets out the truck, she goes over to the car. Everybody in the car is out like a light. She gets on that walkie to call for help when Ruben pops on up, takes her out. So he pulls Gustavo out the car. He's like, Teddy and Franklin out the warehouse. I'm taking you to finish the mission. So we see Franklin is propped up on something, trying not to hang himself. I don't even know if I should be saying that on this video, but I'm not monetized. Anyway, when Teddy comes back and he's like, with Gustavo here, listen, like, I can't afford to turn my back. So now it looks like Teddy's got some acid. He already comes back with a barrel, so we already know what time it is. I was like, this is not looking good. I probably said it 1,000 times. Y'all just gonna have to excuse me in this video because this episode, again, was stressful. Teddy's filling this barrel and it's not looking so good for our boy Franklin. He's like, I'm sorry about your pops. Things got bad. You let me go. I promise you'll never see me again. I was like, Franklin, I don't know if this is going to work right now. Teddy's got that deadly needle in his hand. He's working towards Franklin. He's like, don't fight it. You'll just regret it. You're going to fall asleep. And he's like, you'll feel a little pinch and you'll fall asleep, which is more than what you deserve. And he pulls down Franklin's sock. And this was Teddy's problem. Because Teddy wanted revenge so bad. This is Louis, Teddy, Franco. I'm going to keep telling y'all. Teddy wanted revenge so bad that you was going to drag this shit out, because you could have just put one in his head from the gate. Okay, maybe you don't want to do it in your car, but as soon as you got to that warehouse, you could have had a strap with a silencer and took him out. But no. So like I said, he pulls down Franklin's sock, and then all of a sudden we hear somebody bust through the door. Or not bust through the door. The door opens and it's so I ain't never been so happy to see this man. Where the fuck have you been? But baby, Ruben is right behind him. Teddy puts his hands up, and when I say, again, by the hair of a chinny chin chin. So Ruben is telling him to take out the gun and remove it slow, kick it over. And I'm like, don't he got another gun on him? But Teddy, he listens, he kicks the gun over. He still got his hands up after that. Ruben's the one's giving him orders, so he's telling Oso to handcuff Teddy to the forklift. I have in my notes, is anyone gonna help Franklin? And as soon as I'm writing that, Franklin's like, yo, help me down, cut me down. I can't remember what he said, but Ruben's too busy focused doing what he's doing. Which you do have to be focused when it comes to Teddy, because Teddy be trying to pull a fast one. And like I said, Oso was putting his handcuff on him, and Teddy is whispering to him, my ankle. So I said I saw him put another gun in his ankle. Here go Teddy. It's not too late to walk away still. Franklin hollering in the background, yo, help me down. I said, damn, Franklin. So Gustavo, he looks to Teddy's ankle, and then he turns around, and then Ruben looks too. He's like, you think I'm stupid? Give me the gun. Then Gustavo attacks Ruben, and it looked like Ruben was getting the better of him, which I was quite annoyed by that. And Teddy over there looked like he's trying to save himself. I don't know what he was doing. And then Gustavo flips it and finally gets on top of him, because I'm like, yes, please channel Oso. Like, you're a wrestler, dude. Please don't let Ruben best you. And he's, ramming back. Oso handled the business that needed to be handled. He bashing Ruben's head into the floor. Well, while they're doing all of this rolling around the floor, they done knocked the barrel that was under Franklin. Whoo! And Franklin is hanging there, trying to breathe, trying to stay alive. Teddy's like, is he alone? And Franklin's like, Oso, help. And at that moment, Oso had a decision to make, and I was a little bit worried, and I don't know why, because Oso has been a stand-up guy. So he takes a barrel over and he puts it up under Franklin, and Teddy's like, hey, what are you doing? Gustavo, he's a traitor. Him and his whole family. They brought the KGB into this. You know how this ends. The CIA will track you down. Whatever he promised you, it's not worth it. But Oso, he helps Franklin down. I was like, yes. What do you want to do, Moreno? Franklin, he looks up at Teddy, gets that little smile and starts to laugh, and that's where the episode ends. Please allow me to introduce myself. And the music was good on this episode too, because they ended with that, and they started, I didn't mention at the top of the episode, they started with 6 in the morning, Mr. Ice-T. But Snowfall, y'all have my blood pressure up. I can't stop saying it. Girl was just stressed out. How did you guys like the episode? I can't believe it's almost over. There are only 2 episodes left. I'm looking at the previews for the next episode and I said, damn, they didn't kill Ruben. I said, I don't know if that was a good idea. Although I guess if he took Ruben out, they still had the tapes and the videos and whatever Franklin gave them. So I guess my other question is, V and Franklin's baby gonna make it? Because all they gave us was the poor lady's water breaking, and that was the end of it. I was like, okay, but I guess, y'all had a lot of ground to cover in one episode. Child, yikes, it was a lot. Leave your thoughts, theories, and comments down in the comments section, or just let me know that you stopped by. And join me back here for episode 9. Your girl is super excited. Peace.